Hello, everyone. IMS welcomes you all to the webinar series Future You Set Your Career Compass Right with Experts Insight. And I'm Kalyani, your host for this webinar. So, in this session, our topic is how to become a corporate banker. So, you'll find out about how an MBA can provide you with a head start in corporate banking, essential skills that are valued in corporate banking, the various roles in corporate banking, relationship manager, treasury specialists, and other roles and responsibilities. What are these? There is a statement, better life, work-life balance in corporate banking. Is it true or false? We'll find that out as well. Is it important to have a commerce or finance background, pre-MBA to be considered for this field, and more? So let's welcome our speaker. We have Angadbir Singh Sibia. He's an associate Vice President Corporate Banking at HSBC. He's an alumnus of MDI Gurgaon, and his undergraduate degree is in commerce. Welcome, Angadbir, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Madhumita.
Hi. Yeah, so let's start from your right from your pre-MBA, then MBA, and then how exactly corporate banking happened. Yeah, so
Yeah.
briefly your career. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Ludhiana.
Hmm.
Currently also working from Ludhiana last few days.
Okay.
So I did my schooling from Sacred Heart School, Ludhiana. Post that, I decided to take commerce, and I did my bachelor's of commerce with the honors in management from Nashi Aurobindo College, Ludhiana.
Okay.
I started preparing for CAT mid of second year, I think. Then I got a 96.16 percentile in CAT, and post that I got admission in MDI. And MDI, so I got a summer internship in HSBC. Post that, during the summer internship, I got a pre-placement offer from HSBC, so I decided to join HSBC itself.
Okay.
So for corporate banking, I always had a love for money. So
Okay.
reading about money, talking about money, learning about businesses, what they do, how they do it, learning about the economy. So banking came naturally to me.
Okay.
So banking, or you can say finance, came naturally to me. So
Mm.
even though my specialization was not finance in MBA, it was a international management degree. I
Okay.
decided to pursue finance and go into corporate banking.
Okay. But what made you decide? So in your graduation, you had commerce. So
Yep.
you knew you were working with numbers a lot. But what was the reason? Why did you when did you decide to go for an MBA? Why, for that matter? Is it because you wanted to get into corporate banking? Was that the reason, or what was it? Yeah.
No, I wasn't that clear during my BCom course. So during BCom, I'd say that my sister is my elder sister is also an MBA. So I see the career progression that MBA does for you. So
Mm.
in HSBC itself, there
Mm.
are 8 career bands, like
Correct.
levels you join the organization in.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
join after BCom,
Mm.
you join at band 8. If you join after
Okay.
MBA, you join at band 6. And going
Okay.
from one
Yeah.
band to another takes
Huh.
4 years. So you
Okay.
get a bump of,
Yeah.
let's say, 6 to 8 years after doing your MBA.
Correct.
So that's huge for anyone.
Mm.
And of course, I wanted to get into management and um finance.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided to do an MBA.
But tell me something. Okay, we'll talk about that whole entry level to
Sure.
the top. How do you go up, and
Sure.
what are those roles and responsibilities? But first, tell me why. Since you said you loved money, why didn't you go for investment banking or maybe equity research? Yeah.
So, investment banking is actually very siloed stream.
Okay.
So, in corporate banking, also many of our clients, they need investment banking services. So we refer them to the investment banking team. So
Okay.
investment banking let's say if you go into M&As, you do only M&As, nothing else.
Yeah.
Plus, as is well known, the work-life balance is not good in
Yeah.
banking or equity research.
Yeah.
So, 12 to 14 hours work days are very common there. So I didn't want that hectic of a life or that fast of a life, and I didn't want to be restricted to one silo. Let's say I go into asset research or I go into M&A. I didn't want to be restricted to that one thing. In MBA also I had the opportunity to interview for certain companies like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, but I decided not to proceed with them.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about now the roles and responsibilities of a corporate in corporate banking.
The roles and responsibilities can be very varied. So, in corporate banking, I am in the relationship management team, right? I'm an associate a relationship manager for the team, right? So, what happens is my role is to I'm the face for the bank, let's say, right? So, for any need a customer has with the bank, he contacts me first, and I then liaise with the other teams and I get them in touch with the other teams to coordinate with the client. So there are various specialized teams. Like there's a payment services team, there's a trade team, there's a treasury team. And client can have various needs. Let's say they need a credit card, they need to discount LC, they need a trade loan. So I am the face for the bank, right?
So
So
even if
yeah,
somebody wants, say, a loan, you will be the one will be
yes,
there, or and
yes,
even if it is like a corporate relationship that you are building up, then also you are there
yes.
as a relationship manager.
So the
Yeah, yeah.
relationship manager is the front point, right? So
Okay.
if you go to your bank
Hmm.
as an individual also, you
Hmm.
communicate only to your relationship manager, and
Okay.
he gets different things done for you, right? So in corporate banking also, there's an assigned relationship manager who is the face for the customer. He is the one point contact for the customer. The customer reaches out to the relationship manager, and then relationship manager, depending on the need, get in touch with the various teams and get the customer contacted with them. But the responsibility of the relationship always lies with the relationship manager. So if the trade team, there's a problem with the trade team, it's my responsibility to escalate it, get things done from them, right? So because at the end of the day, I am the relationship manager, and that's my responsibility.
Okay.
The client. Yeah.
Okay, but as a relationship manager, isn't it different uh, for retail and for corporate as an
Yes.
or yeah. So
It's very different, but the difference lies in the complexity of the products
okay.
more than what we do, how we
Can you
get
take an
in touch.
example? Yeah. Can
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
So when you go to a client,
Hmm.
when you go to a bank, what
Hmm.
are the things you contact the bank for? A savings bank account,
Hmm.
credit cards,
Hmm.
maybe home loan,
Yeah.
or a car loan.
Hmm.
Things are restricted to a small bucket of items, right?
Correct.
When you get in touch with corporate,
Hmm.
the vanilla things are current accounts, CCOD limits,
Hmm.
term deposits. Then you get into more complex things like
Yeah.
you for companies which have hundreds of suppliers, they can have virtual accounts, 100 virtual accounts,
Hmm.
where each supplier deposits the money in a specific account so that you can track all those accounts separately. There
Okay.
you can have the treasury services are also, depending upon how mature the company is, they can be very complex. The simple ones can be just the money comes in FX, you charge a margin, you credit the amount. A little
Okay.
more complex can be they book a spot with you. Spot is they book a rate uh, for the next to next day, right? A transaction is happening on Wednesday. You book a rate on Monday that my transaction will happen on Wednesday. You can book forward limits. So the complexity of everything increases. And as the loans are more complex, the documentation, the tracking, that is also very rigorous in corporate banking rather than personal banking. So the essence remains the same, but the products we offer, the complexity of everything increases.
So for an MBA, if a person who has already completed their MBA, usually they're hired by a bank for relationship manager, or even treasury specialists.
They can be hired for any role. So after MBA from my batch, people were hired in the relationship management team. They were hired in the trade team. Some were hired in the treasury team. Some were hired in the M&A team. And for I don't know about other banks.
So M&A team, when you're talking about mergers and acquisition, right? M&A team.
Yep.
Isn't that part of investment banking, or
Yes.
are they working with investment bankers?
No. So HSBC will have its own investment banking team also. For helping clients. So, one of our customers was acquiring another company. So we got them in touch with our M&A team. They did everything for them, and we were of course, liaising with them for everything. So after MBA, different roles are open for you. But I don't know about other banks, but for HSBC, it was depending upon which college you come from. So for M&A, for equity research, it was restricted to IIM ABC. For corporate banking, it was more like IIM Kozhikode, MDI, IIM Indore. And for colleges like IMT, those were either in the business banking team, which deals with smaller accounts, or they were roles like trade, global payment services, roles like that.
So what are the core skills, hard skills, soft skills? Even to know that, you are a perfect fit for corporate banking.
So I think soft skill for everything is only one: you should know how to talk. Right. For the meetings we go to with clients, 90% of the discussions are non-banking, non-finance. They are सड़क टूटी पड़ी है देखो यहाँ पे, and discussing about their kids going to school, and what happened during COVID, and how there's a lot of traffic outside, how they can figure out what to do about that. So the person who hired me during the summer internship, who took my interview, 2 years ago, in the bank itself, I was earlier working in another team, in the local corporate team. Now I work in the MNC team. He took me in his team. He said that I know you know how to talk because I took your interview. So there's nothing much else required. So because that is the main skill: how to handle people, how to manage people. So at any point of time, there would be 10 things which would not have followed the timeline, where the client would be unhappy. You should know how to talk to them, how to tell them, sir, this would happen tomorrow due to this reason. We couldn't do this today. So the 90% of the times there would be things which are beyond you, which you would have given a timeline to the client, but you could not handle those. You could not meet those timelines. So you should be able to talk to the client, tell them the hard facts that this happened, this cannot happen. We cannot do this transaction today. So things like that. And another thing is networking skills. Networking skills, not just outside the bank, but within the bank. So, like I said, that every bank has very specialized teams for everything. So, if you have a good if you have good networking skills, if you know people well, you can get things done at 8 o'clock at night. You can get things done which generally take 3 days. You can get those done in a few hours. You
No.
just need to know who is the right person to call and listen to you, right? So
Correct, correct.
networking skills inside the bank, soft skills would be just talking to people,
Mm.
good at
Yeah.
handling difficult conversations, good at small talk.
Mm.
So those would
Okay.
be
Okay. And hard skills?
basic knowledge of finance, right?
Mm.
That is very important.
Mm.
Not finance as is taught in most colleges is more future looking, right? So you should also have knowledge about accounting. Accounting
Okay.
is more
Okay.
important
Mm.
in banking. When you're giving loans, it's more important in finance, knowing about different ratios, how they affect the credit rating, things like
Mm.
that. So
Mm.
knowledge about finance and accounting would be something which is very important. Another thing which is very important would be your general knowledge about, because what happens is that you work with very varied businesses. So one would be a healthcare business, one would be let's say accounting business, another company would be a startup.
Mm.
So when you work when you have to write credit notes for them,
Okay.
you should know about what's happening in that industry, what's new in that industry, because you don't have to convince yourself, you have to
Mm.
convince others inside the bank, you have to convince the risk team inside the bank to grant a loan to this company.
Correct.
So you can't do that without knowing about that industry, knowing about that
Mm.
company. So
Right.
basic knowledge about the areas you work in is very important. So that doesn't come in from reading many books. That comes
Mm.
in by reading the daily newspaper or just downloading an app in your phone, which keeps you updated on everything, watching the news for half an hour a day, things like that.
Mm.
So that also I think would be very important.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about the in corporate banking from entry level for MBA from entry level to yeah, to top.
So post MBA,
Mm.
so like in HSBC, I told you we join at band 6. So it's a associate vice president role.
Mm.
In associate vice president role, also if you go, that it depends upon the team you go in. So if you go to the
Yeah.
business banking team,
Mm.
which generally deals with small Indian businesses like a few crore or up to 200-300 crore revenue companies,
Mm.
then you can become a relationship manager directly, right?
Okay.
So you're the only point of contact, you are the relationship manager. So I am in the international subsidiary business team, which is an MNC team. So
Okay.
here we deal with companies which are MNCs and they have an Indian subsidiary. So there's a big company globally and they have an Indian subsidiary. So we deal with those companies. So
Okay.
I work as an associate relationship manager. There's a relationship manager also assigned to every role, every
Mm.
company. So, but the relationship manager's role is more about getting new business,
Mm.
and the associate's role is housekeeping of the existing business.
Okay.
So the daily conversations which happen with the ARM, the associate relationship manager,
Mm.
with the company, whoever it is, finance manager, CFOs, whoever it is. And most of the times the relationship managers are scouting for new companies, new deals, looking for uh, going out for 10 meetings a day or some things like that, right?
Okay.
So in our team, after a few years, you can get an opportunity to become a relationship manager.
Mm.
Relationship manager's role I've just described to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Post that, one thing is that in HSBC, I don't know about other organizations.
Mm-hmm.
The hierarchy is very flat.
Okay.
So like I said, there are 8 levels in the organization. So if you get 8 promotions, you are the global CEO. So
Okay.
the hierarchy is
Okay.
very flat, unlike the Indian organizations where there are many levels, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So here, after the relationship manager, you become the regional head. Regional head would be regional director of North region
Hmm.
or regional director of South region, roles like that.
Hmm.
Uh, Post that, everything here takes time. So an associate to a relationship manager, you can become in, let's say, 4 5 years also, you can become
Hmm.
one.
Hmm.
Relationship manager to regional head generally takes, let's say, 8 10 years.
Okay.
And regional head, post regional head, you can become the country head for your
Okay.
business.
Okay.
Let's say I work in ISB, you can become a ISB India head.
Okay.
uh, so that's the next role. Post that is the India CEO.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very flat organization. So
Hmm.
I think,
Hmm.
for people working in ICICI or
Hmm.
other countries, they generally wouldn't have seen their, um, let's say, CXOs ever, personally.
Okay. Okay.
So
Hmm.
we have a call with our country head every Monday morning. Uh, I have met
Okay.
the CXOs multiple times in the last 3 years. I have
Okay.
met the CEO twice. So it's a very
Hmm.
flat
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Hmm.
this is if you stay in the same role, right?
Right.
So what people can also do, and what is preferable, is you switch roles. So
Okay.
if you are currently in the relationship management team,
Hmm.
you go to trade sales role.
Okay.
You do that role for a few years, you can go to a cash management role.
Hmm.
You can go to a treasury role
But
after
how
a few
does
years.
this help if you keep changing your job roles within the bank?
So what
Within.
happens is that your knowledge base increases a lot.
Okay.
Plus, when the bank looks at senior roles, they always prefer people
Hmm.
who have knowledge about different domains. So if you want to become the country head,
Hmm.
uh, you should your knowledge shouldn't be restricted to your product. You should know about different products.
Yeah.
So that always helps.
Okay. A lot of people say that in if you want to have a career in finance, but you also want to have a good work life balance, then corporate banking is the right one, a right path, and not like, say, investment banking or equity research and all. How much of it is true, how much of it is false? And I mean, we are also talking about, not just being corporate banking in, one of the medium level. We are also talking about, like, what if somebody wants to grow in that field? So then how much of a work life balance is there? Is it still better than being an investment banker? And yeah, and then you can also talk about your typical day. Of one
Yeah.
typical.
So I think the work-life balance as compared to investment banking would always be better at every point in life,
Yeah.
but the money you earn would also be less. So you have to make
Yeah.
that trade-off in life.
Okay.
What do you want more?
Hmm.
But I certainly did not want to work 15 18 hours a day. So I
Yeah.
decided to get into corporate banking.
Hmm.
And the work-life balance, I think, in corporate finance and corporate banking would be equivalent. You would be working an equivalent number of hours, I think,
Okay.
because what is corporate banking? What do? We talk to
Hmm.
people who work in corporate finance already, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So so there's a transaction happening. So people from the companies who work in the finance team and people from the bank, they are conversing with each other. So
Correct.
the work-life balance, I think, would probably be the same. Uh,
Hmm.
the What happens in a typical day?
A
So
typical day. Yeah.
So
You made notes, is it?
yes. Typical
Okay.
day I have
Yeah,
written
that's
down.
yeah, okay, that's a good point.
Yes,
Yeah, it's good
because
to make notes and keep,
yeah.
yeah, things organized.
So if
Okay.
if your
Yeah.
day is very interesting,
Okay.
so you'll get to meet a new company.
Hmm.
You get to understand what they're doing, and
Hmm.
you'll get to write a proposal about their work. Right.
Hmm.
So this is a very interesting day, which don't happen every day.
Okay.
so,
Okay. Okay.
so
So
a
normally,
typical
like a mundane day, like a typical day is average.
so
Yeah.
there are many things which are our responsibilities, right?
Hmm.
One is the credit proposal part. So credit
Okay.
proposal part, there's a review every year for every company. So let's say I handle 50 credit companies.
Hmm.
So on an average, there are 4 reviews every month.
Okay.
So I'm working on their reviews.
Hmm.
I'm talking to the company, getting the latest financial, getting different checks done, credit checks. You would be checking your experience reports, your civil reports. So civil reports for the company,
Okay.
for the directors, getting various checks done for everything,
Hmm.
learning about their finance, talking to them. About why there's a variation in different items in their statements, get making the projections for the next 5 years. So
Okay.
that is something which is done on a day-to-day basis. Another thing would be KYC, right?
Okay.
So there's a, as per the RBI guidelines,
Hmm.
it is
Hmm.
mandatory to renew KYC for some companies after every 1 year, some
Hmm.
companies every 3 years, some companies every 5 years, depending
Okay.
upon various parameters they have set.
Correct.
So we get in touch with the customer. So there are dedicated teams for this also, but we get in touch with customers for their refreshed KYCs. For
Okay.
international companies, it's a little more difficult because some most of the owners of the company, whom we called UBOs, ultimate beneficial owners, they
Okay.
do not live inside India. They live abroad, and
Okay.
some of them are very big people who might be in the Forbes billionaires list. So asking them to give your driving license and your
Hmm.
passport
Hmm.
becomes a little more difficult.
Yeah.
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 So
Hmm.
so this KYC part is one bit. So
Okay.
uh, another thing is there would be risk trackers for every company. So if you given a loan to a company, you would be tracking different documents, different reports you'd be seek from the company. Let's say if I've given working capital loan to a
Hmm.
company,
Hmm.
if I given a working capital loan, I have a charge over their current assets, right?
Yeah.
So 2 or 3 documents stem from only this one facility I've given. One
Okay.
would be the stock statement of the company. Every month, I take a stock statement of the company, which tells me their drawing power, which in turn affects how much I can give to the company as a loan every month, right?
Hmm.
This is
Hmm.
one document. Another is stock audit. So
Hmm.
every year I have to do a stock audit of the company where my auditor goes, he compares the stock statements with what's actually there. Another thing
Okay.
is insurance. So if I have a charge on something, I want that to be insured. So I need to, the company needs to have valid insurance, and I need to be given periodic renewal copies of that. So
Yeah.
there are hundreds of such documents
Hmm.
which we have to track, and we have to liaise with the company to get those.
Okay.
For
Okay.
some companies, the risk team might put conditions that you have to update us about the financials, about this condition or that
Hmm.
condition every 1 month, every 2 months. So things like that you are working on. Another
Okay.
thing is every day, if you're working with 150 clients, 10 of them would have a problem with their transaction
Okay.
because the transactions are complex. These are not NEFTs, RTGS. These
Okay.
are A2 payments which are going abroad.
Okay.
These
Hmm.
are
These are remittance, is it? No.
these are
Okay.
generally in MNCs.
Hmm.
90% of the transactions are cross-border transactions.
Okay.
So for some reason, some transaction will be stuck.
Okay.
You have to find out why it's stuck. You have to work
Hmm.
with various teams. You have to work with the client on getting those
Hmm.
through.
Okay.
So things like that are something which happens every day,
Okay.
where there is a problem.
Okay.
So and another thing is that uh, there would be very mundane things like getting the signatories changed. So for a personal bank account, you are the only signatory. But
Right.
for a company's bank account, there
Hmm.
could be a big matrix
Correct.
about who can sign the documents. Let's say
Hmm.
under 10 lakh, this person can sign.
Okay.
Over
Hmm.
10 to 1 crore, this person and this person or this person can
Okay.
sign. So things
Correct.
like that. So there are regular changes in that.
Hmm.
Company require, the auditors require quarterly audit reports from bank about the balances, about the credit utilization, things like that.
Correct.
And if you have time, in our role, you look for new leads, new companies
Hmm.
which we can bank. So this is what a typical working day is.
Okay. Tell me, how easy it is for a person from corporate banking to make a transition to some other finance field. Is it possible to uh, what if somebody who was been in corporate banking through placements and all that, and
Mhm.
then realizes after doing these various different roles that maybe they might be interested more in the trading bit or maybe in equity research. Can they Is that transition smooth? Is it possible? And how many years one I mean within how many years one should actually make that transition, if at all?
It is possible, but for HSBC, it is difficult, right? If
Okay.
you want to
Mm.
get into equity research or if you want to get into treasury roles, it's
Okay.
difficult.
Mm.
There also, what helps you is because I deal with treasury every day. So there are
Okay.
treasury transactions happening every day. There are hundreds of transactions happening every day. So for those transactions, I have to be in touch with them, right? So
Okay.
when you're talking to them, your knowledge and things like uh, uh, how good you are in talking to the clients. So
Mm.
those always the treasury team gets to know,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Because we are working together with the client.
Correct.
So if you apply to a treasury role, the treasury team already knows you. They know what you
Mm.
do. They know how good you are. So things like that always help you. Plus, you
Okay.
show that you have gathered additional knowledge. Let's say there's a FEDI exam which
Okay.
you can enroll for and give. So I don't remember the full form.
Mm.
Anyone can search it.
Yeah.
FEDAI.
Okay.
Foreign exchange is something.
Mm.
So things which you can try to improve your knowledge. You can
Mm.
showcase that I have given this exam. I've worked on these proposals with complex treasury products. So those kind of things help.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about as a treasury specialist?
So
So.
treasury roles can be split into two.
Mm.
One is the sales role, which where you deal with clients, and
Mm.
the other is managing bank's internal treasury, right?
Mm. Mm.
So for the clients, what is the most vanilla thing is deciding upon the margins of foreign exchange transactions.
Okay.
So if
Mm.
USD 1 million is coming into India,
Correct.
you can have a margin of 10 basis points. You can have a margin of 150 basis points.
Okay.
So negotiating with the client, deciding upon the margin, that's the most plain vanilla thing.
Hmm.
Another is, like I explained earlier, you can products like forwards.
Okay.
That I want to do a big transaction 1.5 months, 2 months, 5 months from now. I
Hmm.
want to book the rates right now
Okay.
because the company wants to eliminate the risk of fluctuation in the value of currency. Because
Correct.
for a transaction which is happening 3 months from now, you
Hmm.
would be preparing the raw material, you will be preparing your goods now.
Hmm.
So that is happening at the rates which are prevalent now. The
Hmm.
transaction is happening on 3 months. So you want to eliminate the risk that there would be a fluctuation in the value of dollar,
Okay.
right? So you book
Okay.
a forward right now. So that is what that for that you get treasury, get in touch with treasury. So
Okay.
another thing would be, there is a floating interest rate loan. you want to make it a fixed interest rate loan.
Hmm.
You ask for interest rate swaps, right?
Okay.
You swap the interest rate from a floating to a fixed interest rate.
Hmm.
Similarly, there can be currency swaps. There's a US dollar loan. You want
Hmm.
to change it into an INR loan. You opt for
Okay.
currency swaps.
Okay.
So these are some products. There are many products. These are some
Hmm.
products which the Treasury department deals in. So this is external Treasury where we are dealing with clients. For the bank's internal Treasury,
Hmm.
you have to balance your books, right? So if I book a forward with the client,
Hmm.
I cannot have that open position. I have to book a reverse entry,
Okay.
right? So
Okay.
the reverse entry can be either I am booking a similar forward in the opposite currency with another client that balances out my books, or I'm booking that in an interbank market.
Okay.
So how Treasury earns money is, for the client, they'll charge a margin over the interbank rate. So
Hmm.
I book a forward with the customer, I book a reverse entry in the interbank market, I earn on the margin. So the interbank transactions and managing the bank's book is done by the internal treasury department.
Okay. So now that you were talking about that you don't need to know Python and all that, but the thing is, like, what if somebody who has a background in software engineering and has done an MBA in finance and then has got into a bank? So does that help? That profile
It
helps,
helps,
right? Okay.
of course
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
helps.
Okay.
So like let's say if Excel and these programs are a handicap for me, right? Because
Hmm.
I am very bad at them.
Okay.
So if a person,
Hmm.
so if we are doing a transactional analysis for the client, if there's a data pool which has been generated by our backend team
Hmm.
with where there are 10,000 different companies which have been incorporated in the last 1 year. You
Hmm.
have to search for companies which would fit you. So you can use various programs which you might have learned earlier to sift through that
Okay.
data and arrive at the desired result. So all those things help you. I'm just saying that Excel knowledge is very important, but knowledge about Python is not necessary.
Not
It's always
necessary.
helpful, and it
Hmm.
always helps you be better at your job.
Correct. There's a question mark by the time if we find that growth is not happening, even after completing all the required work or projects on time and in proper way, then should we change the company or we should wait in the same company? What should we be doing? Or should we change the sector? What should be the
There can be tens of options in such a scenario. You can change your location. You can change the team you work in. Let's say
hmm,
I don't see. So I am currently in MNC business.
hmm,
I don't see much growth in this,
hmm,
or I have a fight with my boss or something like
hmm,
that. I
hmm,
go to the local business team, ask them, please take me.
hmm.
And when there's a vacancy, they'll take me. You go to the
Okay.
payment
Hmm,
services team, you tell them that I'm interested in this job. Whenever there's a vacancy, tell me, I can change that job.
okay.
Then the other extreme would be you shift your company and go to a
Hmm,
different company.
hmm,
Uh, in bank to bank, it's easy to get a job. It's not very difficult.
okay.
Uh, Switching industries is a little difficult. Let's say you want to go to a marketing role. It's very difficult.
Hmm,
Yeah,
okay.
especially after you have 4 or 5 years work experience,
Hmm,
you can't go to directly to an FMCG sales role. It's very difficult to get into those roles. But the essential skill for every sales role is the same. So many people who have left HSBC have gone to different startups. A colleague of mine has gone to Google's marketing role. They
hmm,
have gone to different new. One of my colleagues, senior colleagues, has gone to Apple uh,
okay.
role, partnerships where they look at different partnerships with they have with banks or other institutions. So all that is possible. For that also you need to have good relationships with different people in the landscape.
Okay. There is a question about how do I know if corporate banking is a good fit for me? Yeah, how do you know?
I also don't know. So uh,
You have to try
so
it maybe, or
yeah. So
yeah.
if these so making projections for
Mm.
companies and looking at the data for the companies, it's something which didn't feel like work for me, right?
Okay.
So uh, reading about new companies, it's something which if I was free I would do.
Okay.
So
So
it
yeah.
always felt a good fit for me because I enjoyed doing those kind of
Uh,
things. I enjoyed
mm,
talking to people, learning about what they're doing. So as a part of, if you are in lend, if you have lent to a company, you need to do factory visits for the company.
mm,
So going to different factories and learning about the processes and all, it's something which I always found interesting.
mm.
So that's why I lent into corporate banking.
Okay, yeah. Before we wrap up, do you have something to share, like maybe a book or two about something that can get them to understand corporate banking, maybe in an interesting way or something, or yeah, or a tip or a suggestion?
Uh, for understanding corporate banking, so there are various exams which I'm also currently giving.
Okay,
So
okay.
you can give but that you can give only after you enter banking. So
Mm,
for the
mm,
books, you can read JIIB books.
okay.
For general knowledge on finance, you can read The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's all we have time for today for this session. And I would like to thank all the attendees for coming for this session and asking all the questions. And I would like to give my special thanks to Angadbir Singh Sibia. Thank you so much for giving insights on corporate banking. Thank you so much.